Good morning. Today we are going to be working in our kitchen, making a few upgrades and hooking up the propane. We're going to be making a sealed, locked box for our propane, so stay tuned.
All right, we're working on our little kitchen cabinet installation here again today. For those of you who've been following along with our videos, you'll know that we had our little Coleman thermoelectric refrigerator in here, and we had our propane tank anchored to the floor in here. And we've decided that that was inadequate. We tested the refrigerator. It drew too much current from our solar batteries to run it 24 hours a day, and so we're making some modifications here. We're going to make some changes. We're going to mount our propane inside of a sealed box, vented to the outside, and I guess we don't recommend that you carry propane inside of your RV at all, but you know, if you have no other way of doing it, it needs to be inside of a sealed box vented to the outside through the floor. In case the pop-off valve releases gas inside, it'll all go outside instead of coming inside the vehicle. So we're working on that this morning. We have our box built. We'll show you that in a minute. The box is going to go on this side. We have a new refrigerator ordered that's going to go in on the other side, and it'll actually be a more efficient use of our available space. So we're going to take you out now and show you the box that we're getting ready to mount in on this side.
Box is made out of 3/4 inch plywood, and we're screwing it together and also using some Gorilla Glue. Now we're going to test it to see if the propane tank fits nice and snug in there.
We've used our RTV silicone to seal all these edges to make sure that this is airtight. Okay, here's our box all completed except for the latch, and it has a rubber seal around the door all the way around, and it will have a latch on top to compress it so that the bottom will go in a slot which squeezes it against the bottom, and the top will have a latch so that it stays compressed and there's no way for air to escape. There'll be a vent hole in the bottom here that goes all the way through and out the floor of the van. Our gas hoses will come out up here on this corner. We're going to put rubber pads on the sides, and the tank will fit up in here, up against the rubber pads. The regulator here, hose is coming out the top. We have two separate hoses. One will be for using the cook stove, and one will be for using the buddy heater, because they use different types of regulators. And so we're just going to use two separate hoses, and it'll be necessary to open up and actually reach in here and unscrew one and screw the other one on to make that change from using it for one purpose or the other. And each time the door will be put back on and the latch flips, so that this at all times will be sealed in an airtight container, vented to the outside. Okay, so this commercial propane tank, made for putting underneath of a vehicle, was given to me by a friend, and it's going to be rather difficult for us to install this under our vehicle. After seeing it, it's larger than I thought, but it's a very, very nice unit. It has its own percent gauge, just like this is a commercial propane tank. It has relief valves and, you know, commercial fill outlet where you just pull right up to a propane distributor and let them fill the tank. All right, this rubber seal that we have on here is a double-backed well, it's not actually double back. It's an adhesive rubber strip. Now they make this in a foam that's real soft and squishy, and you don't want that. You want this dense rubber strip to seal this in. All right, here we have our box now is mounted inside. We have our hose for the buddy heater, and it screws in with this fitting and uses a regulator that's attached to the heater that the other end of this hose hooks into. The cook stove actually uses a regulator here that hooks onto the tank here. And so we have our, let me pop this out of here real quick so you can see the vent. It goes out through the floor. Okay, here's the vent, 3/4 inch PVC, and we're getting ready to apply our silicone around the edge of this. And we're going to silicone around these hoses. These are the last two openings to get sealed up to make this airtight. And then two different types of hoses that we have to use. So one screws into the nozzle in the tank, one screws around the outside, one for cooking, one for the buddy heater. And then we still have our latch to install, but this drops down in its notch, goes closed, and we have a latch to put on here to hold that tight so that it's airtight. Here we have our latch. This is what we're gonna, it's called a draw hasp. And it will go on here like this, and it locks over that and then draws down and latches tight, and that'll keep a positive pressure pulling in on this against the rubber seals. So we have the latch installed now. We have the tank in place. Our door fits down in this notch, goes in nice and snug with our rubber seal all the way around, and our latch hooks on there and puts positive pressure and squashes that foam. It's not very thick, so it's nice and airtight. All right, we have the our tank in place. We've added a piece of acoustical foam on the side and in the door, not for acoustic purposes, but to hold the tank firmly in place so it won't slide around or vibrate when we're driving. We actually have this regulator hooked up. You can see our pass-through here. We use the pass-through for the hoses, and we've got a lot of silicone around the two hoses. This one is the regulator and the hose for our cooking stove, and this is for the buddy heater, because the regulator is on the other end of it at the heater. And so in order to change between one and the other, we have to actually unscrew them and change these two hoses. The hose then comes around behind inside of the cabinet and underneath our stove shelf, comes out around and attaches to our 2-burner cook stove up here. Now the 2-burner cook stove slides in this shelf with the hose still attached. These legs go over the back of the shelf and drop down and lock it in so it can't slide forward and slide out.
Alright, there it is in its shelf for when we travel. And underneath the vehicle here is where we have the vent coming out. I'm going to show you how we are going to finish that. Alright, we're going to finish the vent underneath the vehicle. We got a little screen, rodent screen, and an elbow that's going to go up in here.
Okay. There's a piece of metal window screen in the end of it to keep bugs and whatnot from getting in.
Alright, we got the door installed now, and that is all done. And we have the refrigerator in there now, the new refrigerator that uses less power, but also because once it keeps it cool, it will shut off and doesn't keep running constantly. Alright, we are all done with our kitchen and our custom Sprinter van conversion here. We've made our minor improvements to our kitchen with our fridge, hooked up our propane, and made the sealed propane locked box. So as always, thanks for watching and make sure to subscribe to our channel.